Begin now. How does that sound to everybody? Anyone having trouble now? Okay. I have to apologize, Your Honor, and everybody else. The young man who would normally have been here long ago to set up our assistive listening devices for the people who need them failed to turn up. He's now on his way, and it was something he couldn't help. So we do apologize for the rather chaotic situation you came into. I would like to welcome you, Your Honours, and Mr. Bowden, who's come from Ontario, Mr. Spracklin, who is Assistant Executive Director and is representing Mr. George Tilley, who is the Executive Director, special guests, members, and friends. I just want to welcome you and then ask if His Honour will... I'm sorry, not His Honour. I'm not doing well tonight. That really put me off my stride, I'm afraid. But I think if Mr. Spracklin would be kind enough to bring us a welcome from the Janeway. There's a special reason for this. The Janeway has allowed us to use this room for our meetings, for our general meetings from the very beginning. They've done all sorts of things to help us. The last major thing was that when we lost all our furniture and everything in the fire and finally got an office to work in, they gave us our basic furniture. That's an awful word which everybody uses now, but they did, in fact, do that and set us up. So, Mr. Spracklin, I want you to come.
Thank you, Your Honours, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, Dr. Brown has been associated with the Janeway before the Janeway was even in existence. And if we don't continue to help her out, you know what I mean, she'd probably get mad at us and you never know what she might do. But it's my distinct pleasure to be here and represent the administration of the hospital this evening and to say it is our pleasure to continue to assist the Newfoundland Hearing Association, is it, Dr. Brown? Or I believe, or Hard of Hearing Association?
At this moment, for the Newfoundland Hearing Association,
right.
At the end of the evening, there'll be something else.
There you go, that's it. But anyway, it is my pleasure to represent the Janeway and to welcome you all here. Every opportunity that the Janeway gets to be something to go beyond the walls of the hospital, you know, and I know we're in here tonight, but we could really be anywhere. And anything we can do to extend our services beyond the normal things that we do for the Janeway, we're always ready to help out. One of the things that maybe most of you know that we are involved in is that we administer the provincial hearing aid program for the deaf children of the province, and that starts from just about birth, I think, up to about age 5 or 6, and that program spends about $120,000 a year, and it's funded by the provincial government, of course, and they looked after it up till about 5 or 6 years ago when they asked us to do that. So that's just one thing that we're doing that would be of interest to you people. Anyway, enough of my rambling on. Again, welcome, and we hope you have a great meeting, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Spracklin. You, in fact, do better than you think, because it's from birth to age 18. Yes. Glenn is here now, and if there's anyone not hearing, would they please, would their neighbour put up their hand, please? Anyone not hearing? Somebody over there? How about Mamie back there? Last one behind. Is Mamie hearing? Glenn? Can you manage with that? Can you manage with that?
Which one do you have? Is that yours?
I don't know, one of the top of the book.
Is it? Yeah. That's
I can hear through my own...
yeah, this one here.
Which one?
The first one.
That's yours right here.
I think that's my microphone.
Okay.
But switch that one off.
Yeah, that's NHA's one.
Switch that one off and switch this one on. I can hear okay with that.
Okay.
Leave this one off.
Yeah, okay. I know we're too late now to understand, but
Okay.
Introduce His Honour if he's still feeling capable. I don't really think he needs any introduction. He's a Lieutenant Governor of Newfoundland and Labrador, and we all know his commitment. He works very, very hard, and he's been a wonderful support for a lot of organizations, I know that. We're very happy to have you here today, and I'll let you go. Maybe you would like to change places with me and be more successful than I have been.
Let's see what happens.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You finished?
I'm going to click you on one. Now you're ready to go.
Thank you. Dr. Brown, Mr. Bowden, Mr. Sprackland, Mr. Carter, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear us? Okay. And be pleased to be with you tonight on the occasion of your official change of name in the Canadian to the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association, Newfoundland chapter. I am sure that this change will in no way alter what you do. You will continue to provide service and advice to the hard of hearing and promote public awareness of the prevalence, cause, and prevention of hearing loss. Since becoming Lieutenant Governor, the question I'm asked most frequently is, what is the best part of the job? Assuming there is a best part. Specifically, what is the most interesting and satisfying aspect? My response has always been the people I meet. This may sound a rather trite answer, but in fact, it is true. It is true not only because you get to meet royalty, prime ministers, presidents, ambassadors, high commissioners, and other dignitaries, but also because you get to meet a large number of so-called ordinary people, who in fact turn out to be extraordinary people, many of them not unlike some of you here tonight. These are people who make an outstanding contribution to our province and who could be described as the glue that holds it all together. During these tough economic times, we sometimes tend to think that people have turned inward and have become interested only in their own situation and don't have time to consider other people. My experience has shown that those who think this way are far off the mark. There is a ray of light, and they're out there, and it is our people. The people of Newfoundland and Labrador have always been generous in helping others, and this tendency has not diminished despite their current situation. I believe this comes from our sense of duty to others that has resulted from our living in small, relatively isolated communities where we learn that we are our brother's keeper. I have been privileged to meet many of our citizens who believe this to be true. I would like briefly to tell you about some of them. Last Friday afternoon, my wife and I hosted a reception to mark Volunteer Week. This was attended by representatives of a number of volunteer groups, and as we spoke to each person, we were struck not only by the work they were doing, but by the amount of time they were devoting to doing it. Over the past year, I've held a number of ceremonies at Government House at which Canada's 125th anniversary medals were presented. A large number of these were given to people for community service. One was to a woman who almost single-handedly expanded the Learning Disabilities Association across the province. Another woman had been instrumental in starting a Duke of Edinburgh's Award Young Canadians Challenge on the west coast of Newfoundland. This was so successful that this group has achieved more gold awards than any other area. In March of this year, the first Manning Awards were given by the Newfoundland Historic Parks Association. These were given to groups from 3 communities who had come together to preserve and commemorate a piece of their past. A statue dedicated to the bravery of the people of Lawn and St. Lawrence for rescuing American sailors, another one for restoring an historic house in Belorem and restoring the Avondale railway station. In our travels around the province, we are continuously meeting people who, by their efforts, make their community a better place. People like those who organize and take part in the Labrador Winter Games, the Corner Brook Winter Carnival, the Bake Apple Festival in Southern Labrador, the Newfoundland Labrador Drama Festival, and our great youth organizations such as the Cadets, Scouts, Girl Guides, and the CLB. Yesterday, my wife and I took part in the Climb for Wilderness, a walk from the Newfoundland Telephone Building up Signal Hill to Cabot Tower. And as you can see, we survived to be here tonight. Many young people took part, perhaps 400 or 500 people took part in this walk. It was sponsored by the Protected Areas Association, a group dedicated to the preservation of wildlife and wild lands. Another example of dedicated people doing good work. The sad thing is that the public doesn't often hear of all this outstanding work being done by our dedicated citizens. The media seem to be more interested in doom and gloom and appears to be caught up in looking for and reporting bad news. But I can assure them there is lots of good news out there. Our heroes have not gone away. There are still plenty around. They have just to look at what a large number of our people are doing to make Newfoundland and Labrador a better place for all of us. There is hope for the future, and it is embodied in the spirit of our people, the spirit that has sustained us for 500 years and will for 500 more. Sir Wilfrid Grenfell said, quote, "Real joy comes not from ease or riches or the praise of men, but from doing something worthwhile." We are fortunate indeed that many of our people believe this to be true. I thank you for the invitation to speak to you tonight. I know that your association will continue to grow and prosper because of the dedicated and hardworking volunteers who are its members. Thank you very much. Somebody fell off here. One fell down.
Break it. That's what's going on. Look at that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm afraid there's a gremlin here tonight. I wouldn't like to say. Her Honour has very kindly consented to present some certificates of appreciation to a few people tonight. These are people who are not hard of hearing and are not members of the association, who have nevertheless given us great service, and we want to present these just to say thank you. Should I just hand them to you? Yes. Your secretary here? Yes, It's a videotape. Yes.
Yeah,
it is.
no, I just know which way to turn them, you know, when they
Okay.
come.
Probably just across.
How would you
the-
like to stand there?
That's good, yeah.
I'll give a short citation.
Yes.
The first one is Juanita Kosh, which will surprise her. She works for us 15 hours a week, and she is our only paid worker. Then she goes home full of more work than she did in the morning, quite regularly. We'd like to honour Juanita Kosh. Would you come forward, please? Gail Dempsey. Gail is a person without whom we would not have our office where we are now, in conjunction with a lot of other organizations in the same boat as ourselves. And we're very grateful to you, Gail. We'd like to receive you to receive this appreciation from us. Alison Frampton. Alison was a university student about a year ago when she offered her services to the Hearing Association. We had lost everything in the fire, and she was largely responsible for collecting, indexing, and filing everything we could lay our hands on. She then worked as a Challenge 93 student through the summer and continued the work, and has done some volunteering for us since, despite the fact she's also working. Alison, please come forward. If you're here. Well, she was going to be here, but she obviously couldn't be. She may be working. John Herriot. John Herriot is one of these chaps who deals with computers. I believe he made his own in a very small one when most computers were being housed in large rooms. But he has used his computer to help us, usually when I'm in a tizzy because I couldn't get something typed. Thank you, John. Would you please accept this? Irene Majiska and her husband, Gregory Smith. They're both lawyers, and they do things quite differently. Irene helped us when we had a major problem shortly after the fire, and was a great help to us at that time, very encouraging. Gregory, her husband, has been doing work for us with another problem, which I won't talk about, and we're grateful to them for all the hours and help they've given us. Will you both come forward, please, if you're both here? Irene does a double take. Martha Maziska, is she here? Would you kindly take this for her, Yulita? Martha has done all sorts of things back room for us, which nobody notices but the people who work in the office. So we thank Martha on that account. Daphne White worked for us last November, I think it was, for a month in a special program. And then she continued to work for us for another month, voluntarily. We're very grateful to her because we needed her help greatly at that time. Thank you, Daphne. Are you here? She's not, I'm afraid, but thank you, Daphne, all the same. Mr. Spracklin, I wonder if you'd be kind enough to accept a certificate of appreciation for the Dr. Charles A. Janeway Child Health Centre. They've helped us from our very beginnings, and we're deeply grateful. I'd like to call on Yulita Majiska, please.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, it's a privilege to be here in this marvelous meeting and have the opportunity to thank His Honor and Mrs. Russell for their presence, for taking time to be with us, having to run such a daily busy schedules. And we certainly appreciate the support. I'd like to thank Mrs. Russell as well for giving out the certificates, of which I'm very proud because 2 of my daughters got one each and one husband. And we have a little gift of appreciation for this one. Maybe this.
Don't get them mixed up.
Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Heaven's next. That's yours, I think. That's yours? Okay.
Did anybody cannot hear?
They won't know because they can't hear.
Are you having a dollar? That's good, that's nice then.
Thank you, Dr. Maziska. I want now to... sorry, they say that brain cells disappear, and when you're approaching the age of 80, which I now look forward to with not very far ahead, a lot have disappeared, and your brain suddenly gives up, as it did just then. I'm sorry. I'd like to introduce Mr. Albert Bowden, who is the president of the national organization, the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association. I believe it is the first time that a president has ever presented a chapter charter to a new chapter. Am I right?
That's correct.
Well, I think that I must have bullied him enough to come down. We're very grateful to you. I wonder if we're now kind enough to present the charter and the bylaws, which apparently is very important. Thank you. We don't need this,
Your Honours, special guests, and ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here tonight. It certainly has been worth the while to make this journey and to share the wonderful hospitality of the people of Newfoundland. I think I shall go back with about 5 to 10 pounds of body weight more than I came. Anyway, I had the distinct... Before I go ahead, can everyone hear me? Can everyone that requires to see me properly? Thank you. I'd like to commend His Honor for the manner in which he gave his speech. I go to so many meetings where people talk with the microphone in front of their mouth and do not raise their head once in a while to allow people to see their face. And we all know how important that is, don't we? Anyway, it's my distinct pleasure to present the charter tonight that will officially change the Newfoundland Hearing Association to a provincial chapter of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association. Now, if you bear with me just a minute, I'd like to say a few words about the development of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association. We call it CHHA. We have a very favorite saying, CHHA for now. So I hope that gets on. It's a sort of greeting and a sort of farewell, something like aloha is in Hawaii. CHHA for now. So, CHHA, as we know it, was a dream about 12 years ago. Several people, I think there were 6 in all, were summoned to a few meetings in Ottawa from across the country. And when they got there, they were assured that they would be able to hear and that they would have access. When they arrived, they found that there were sign language interpreters had been laid on for their use. That was the first sign that there was a gross lack of education in regard to the hearing crowd. You all know that the deaf principal language is sign language. The language of the hard of hearing is the spoken language. I know, and I have many colleagues that have little or even less hearing than some deaf people, but they use the sign language. They use the speech or the spoken language. I know people that are, one lady in particular in Ottawa, if you met her, you would absolutely marvel to know that she has no hearing whatsoever. And yet, if you stand face to face with her, you can talk, and she will read your lips. And she makes very few mistakes. Anyway, getting back to the start, these 6 people went away, had their little meeting, and they said, we need to educate people. We need access. We must start a national organization. So the idea of CHHA was born that day. Within 2 years, several branches were organized, and they were principally in Ottawa and BC, where the strength of the organizations started. Within 2 years, we had incorporated CHHA as a national Canadian corporation and gained charitable donation status. When I took over as president 2 years ago, we had 20 branches and 3 provincial chapters. I'm pleased to tell you tonight that after 2 years, we now have 35 branches through Canada and 5 provincial chapters, which you are to be the most important one as far as I'm concerned. And that's the reason I'm here. Because now, CHHA, the great gathering of the hard of hearing people, are now significantly represented from coast to shining sea coast of Canada, all the way from Victoria to Newfoundland and this beautiful province. So I'm happy, I'm very honored to be here to present the charge to Dr. Brown and the initial copy of the bylaws. If I could just drop that microphone. I need 2 hands. Dr. Brown, your charter.
Thank you very much.
And welcome. Welcome to the great family of CHHA. I'm sure you're doing the right thing because there is strength in numbers and unity in purpose. And we are in the same business all the way.
Thank you very much.
Your first copy of the bylaws, which I believe in your meeting later on you'll sign officially, and I can endorse them too. I have another little surprise. 92, you lost something. In fact, you lost many things that were irreplaceable in a tragic fire. Now, just to show we do care, we have a little gift to share with Dr. Brown and to all the members of the Newfoundland chapter. If you would like to open that, please.
Thank you, Al.
This is the original certificate of recognition that was given to you as the Newfoundland Hearing Society in 1991, signed by my predecessor, Marilyn Dahl, the president, and we tried to reproduce it as faithfully as possible in the original colors of CHHA, which was the reddish and the beige. We changed our colors last year to the green. That's a environmental friendly color and a good easy color on the eyes and easy to reproduce, I can tell you. And that is why your new charter is in the official new colors of the organization. but we tried to reproduce your original certificate as we had presented it first of all. So at least we've been able to give you something back from that tragedy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again very much. That's a wonderful event.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Your Honours, for the interest that you've shown in the Newfoundland Hearing Association. I'm sure you'll continue to show that interest in the association. Now it's a member of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association, Newfoundland chapter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowden. I wondered why he was so secretive about that certificate. I asked if I could have it back, and nobody responded at all. They were obviously waiting for this. That is something that has survived the fire. Thank you. And we're very grateful to you for having come here. Please receive this from us with our thanks. No, that's the end of this first bit of business till refreshments, but we do want some photographs of what we have of the new executive, and together with their honours and Mr. Bowden. I should have said that the other way round, I'm sorry, but that's been requested. If you don't mind, we should be grateful. And I think, Paul, can you give that to somebody else to manage? Juanita?
I can do the picture myself.
That's very clever of you. Take the picture of himself. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Here we go.
There we are. Thank you very much.
We just wanted to try.
Who's your friend?
Can you hear me? I think it's time we got on with our annual meeting now. Not working? The hers is, yes. Glenn, where are you? Nothing's happening. Oh, I haven't got these, but I haven't got any. I wasn't speaking loud enough, apparently, or I didn't want to sit down.
Unless you got to call attention.
Oh, she's doing okay.
I'm doing okay, I just hadn't switched it on, that's all. Would you like to come and settle down a little bit, please? Bring any food you like. Bring your coffee, but come and sit down. She won't get home till tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. I apologize for all the fun and games, but you know, it made a point, and a very good one, that a lot of us need assistive devices. Everybody understands that now, and that's something. Now, we're going on to the last annual general meeting of the Newfoundland Hearing Association, and I'm going to ask Paul Carter to read, who's secretary at the moment, to read the minutes of the last annual meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. The minutes of the last annual general meeting, which was held on May 31st, 1993, are as follows. The meeting was called to order at 7 p.m. Present were their honors, the Lieutenant Governor of Newfoundland, Frederick W. Russell and Mrs. Russell, Major Mahoney, aide-de-camp, Dr. Hogan, representing Mr. Tilley, Administrator of the Janeway, members and guests. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. Dr. Majeska welcomed all members and guests. She gave a reminder of the need for resource material, availability of bike tickets, membership fees, sale notices, as well as the drop-off point for items for sale. Minutes from 1992 were read by Dr. Majeska. Dr. Brown made the motion that the minutes be adopted as read. Robert Reed seconded it, and the motion carried. Dr. Majeska gave the President's report. A short recess followed, during which Drs. Brown, Majeska, and Hogan went to welcome the Lieutenant Governor, Mrs. Russell, at the hospital entrance. On arrival, His Honor was introduced by Dr. Majeska and then gave his address. He thanked the association for the work it had done and will continue to do. He stressed the importance of noise as a preventable cause of hearing loss and commended the association's efforts to promote this message. Maxwell Crane gave a vote of thanks and presented a gift to His Honor. Then, Robert Rogers presented a bouquet of flowers to Mrs. Russell. Mr. Cook reminded members that the $25,000 cash surplus included several grants to replace resource material as well as many other things. Dan Hefferman made the motion, and it was seconded by Mrs. Shapter that the report be accepted as presented. Motion was carried. Mr. Cook was reappointed as auditor. Maxwell Crane, chairman of the nominating committee, presented the following slate of members for the board of directors, all of whom had agreed to stand for election. Dr. David Artis, Dr. Nora Brown, Mrs. Joan Marshall, Mrs. Mary Mansfield, Mrs. Regina Cody, Mr. Maxwell Crane, Mr. Melvin Dirtle, Mrs. Lona Dunn, Miss Mary Ennis, Mr. Dan Hefferman, Mr. Glenn Learning, Dr. Yulita Majeska, Mr. Robert Reed, Miss Mary Ryan, Mrs. Judy Rogers, Mr. Robert Rogers, Mr. Todd Tilley, and Mr. Frank Tilley. Maxwell Crane called for nominations from the floor. Dr. Brown nominated, and Mrs. Shapter seconded Mr. Paul Carter. Dr. Brown moved that the nominations cease, seconded by Robert Rogers. Motion was carried. It was moved by Dr. Brown and seconded by Mr. Wilford Eyre that the slate of officers be accepted as presented. The motion was carried unanimously. Dr. Majeska thanked the new board members. She again reminded members of the bike tickets and membership fees and asked all newly elected board members to gather immediately for a short meeting.
There's one error. Mrs. Mansfield did not stand. Could you delete that, please? She withdrew at the last moment.
There was one error in last year's annual general minutes. Mrs. Mansfield opted out at the last minute and did not sit on the board last year. Were there any other errors of omissions? Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I move that the minutes be accepted as read with the correction.
Dr. Brown moves that the minutes are accepted as read with the change. Seconded by... Sorry? Seconded by Teresa Chapter. Carried. All in favor, sorry. Great secretary here. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, Paul. I made an omission with my confusion and the difficulties we had. I forgot to ask for a motion from the floor that we form a chapter of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association. Will somebody please move that we do so? Thank you, Paul. Seconded by Maxwell Crane. May I have your agreement that the motion be carried, that we form a chapter? Thank you. Carried. Now I have to introduce myself because as President and Acting Executive Director, I have to give a combined report, and here it is. I've never had to do that before, and I found it quite difficult because I didn't know where one began and the other ended. Today I wear two hats, one as Executive Director, acting, and one as the President. So obviously it's going to be a mixed report. Chapter status in the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association, now we'll call it CHHA, is an important event in the 10-year life of this association. A year ago, some people were declaring that we could not possibly recover from the fire. Most of us thought differently. They thought it was the end of the NHA. Today is the end, but not the disastrous one the pessimists foretold. We have not only survived, but we have become an integral part of the national body, CHHA. My home housed the office after the fire. In August, funding from the Department of Social Services allowed us to rent space within the very hospitable Seniors Resource Centre, and the Janeway kindly presented us with used furniture. In February of this year, thanks to the efforts of Gail Dempsey of Epilepsy Newfoundland and Labrador, we moved into the post office building at the corner of Queen and Water Streets. One of our members put up the inner walls, repaired and painted it, and now we have two offices and a large room as well. So we have privacy in the offices for interviews, we have space for our committees, for volunteers, and for members just to browse. We can share equipment and concerns with other non-profit organizations. However, what we have done over the past year is more important than where it has been done. It was a very happy day for us when our Lieutenant Governor agreed to become our patron. I don't know what it is, perhaps it lent us kudos. The summer was spent in building up a resource material with the help of Alison Frampton. As you saw, a memorial student, first as a volunteer and then as a Challenge 93 grant student. A grant from the Secretary of State and gifts from members and chapters of CHHA hastened everything up. We were able to replace some of our lost records by copying material sent in by members, but unfortunately we have not been able to add much to the remaining pool of assistive technical devices, which we use for trial before people purchase them. We use them to help in specific events and for education. And this is a very serious deficiency in our outreach program. Speech reading classes were conducted by Valerie Parrott, and our nominee for the VRDP Student Loans Program Board gained a place on the board. Committees are now functioning satisfactorily for the first time ever. Our Accessibility Committee is making inroads on hospitals. The Prevention Committee is planning a school program and a brochure on prevention for parents and young children, funded by the Provincial Department of Health, which will be given to all community health nurses for teaching purposes. Public relations, always reliable, has come into its own in the past 2 weeks. I've never known anything so active. NHA bylaws have been revised by our one-person Constitution Committee to meet chapter requirements. The newsletter is published quarterly and now has a committee of 2. Our Technical Devices Group have been able to provide the necessary assistance to individuals attending conventions in St. John's, although the loans program is limited. Outreach, now joined with the Visiting Committee, has reached hundreds of individuals giving advice, information and support. The Fundraising Ways and Means Group have put many ideas into action, though they haven't all been worked very well. Some of them have. It's an active group. Telephone, finance and liaison committees have done their work quietly in the background, and individuals with tinnitus are serviced by one member. But if there is enough demand, we intend to reinstitute regular meetings. Plans are going ahead for a parent-child committee. A major deficiency is with the programs for youth, which have only been minimally successful in the past and have always folded. I've expounded at length on the committees because their members work hard and programs are better organized than they have ever been. Community involvement includes a great deal: participation in Accessibility Week, Hearing Awareness Month, Volunteer Week, the Royal St. John's Regatta. We've had radio interviews and articles in journals and newsletters. Members have served on a number of committees, mostly promoting the needs of disability groups. One member is on the board of CHHA and on the advisory board of the Canadian Tinnitus Association, and has served on the Canadian Forum for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Educational booths have been set up at several events, including the Medical Students' Health Fair, CMHC's Open House Accessible Housing event, the Legislative Breakfast, and the Realities of Disability workshop, and at the Memorial University London Centre, among others. A member served on the federal government air transport panel, as a result of which the airport manager is beginning to make the Torbay Airport more accessible to the hard of hearing, and some taxis are interested in installing communicators. A member made a presentation on a panel at the Hearing Aid Dispensers annual meeting, and 2 of our members took part in the Realities of Disability and the videotape and the workshop part of it for all Memorial University medical students, to give them an understanding of the difficulties faced by people with disabilities and telling them how they can help as future doctors. This program, with the videotape, was being presented today in Vancouver to 3 associations involved in medical education, in the hope that it will be used in other medical schools. We were invited to take it there. We didn't press it, we were invited. Talks have been given to a number of social, professional, and business groups and have been well accepted. We're now preparing for Accessibility Week, Hearing Awareness Month, Independence 94. That's a 2-day trade fair to be held in June for seniors. Funding remains a problem. We applied for fund-specific programs and have recently completed the federal New Horizons grant and a Secretary of State program. We shall be applying for another Secretary of State one soon. We have received a Challenge 94 student number, which suggests to me that we will get funding for that program again. We have made many other applications, some refused, some pending. Core funding is ever harder to get. The Department of Social Services has reduced their contribution to us yearly. It is now a very small amount. Meetings of disability groups with the Premier and the Cabinet members have been ongoing, but Cabinet funding may be phased out. Government funding may be phased out altogether, and we are only assured of rent for 2 years. I have purposely given some detail more than usual in this report. Just as hearing impairment is invisible, so much of the work that we do in this association is invisible, and there is little realization that about 6% of the population of this province, that is about 35,000 people, could well benefit from our services. We need more money for that. But our beginning was modest. It was little more than 10 years ago. We had 9 dedicated people, no money, but tremendous ideas, and we grew from that. We've got to continue to grow. However, we need many more volunteers, and we need more dollars if growth is to continue as we begin our new life with CHHA. I believe that we can grow, but we're going to have to work at it, all of us. In closing, I would like to thank members of the executive and board who have worked very hard, the volunteers that we can always count on, our part-time secretary, Juanita Kosh, who tackles the impossible very patiently and cheerfully, even when the executive director is distraught. And again, those who have helped us in times of difficulty and have received certificates of appreciation today. Finally, I should like to thank all our members, past and present. Every one of us, every one of them have contributed to our future. Thank you. I'd like to call on Mr. Jonathan Cook, our auditor, to give his report. Mr. Cook? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. First of all, I'd just like to go through an overview of the report. The actual report is on page 1. Then it's followed by the statement of receipts and disbursements and some notes to the financial statement. Return to the report for a moment. It is laid out in 4 paragraphs, and rather than read it verbatim, if I may just sort of explain what each of the paragraphs are saying. First of all, the statements are the statements of the association, and my job as an auditor is to comment on how those statements are prepared and if they are presented fairly the financial position of the association as at the end of March. The second paragraph sets out what an audit is and what I was asked to do, and it refers to a limitation of the scope, and technically that really means that we were not able to verify all of the incomes. For example, we did not attend the regatta and stand next to the wheel and count all of the cash. That is a limitation that is very common in an awful lot of charitable organizations, and it is a simple qualification that is well understood and in no way detracts from the statements. The final paragraph of the report states that in our opinion, we have found that the financial statements do present fairly the financial position of the association as at the end of March. The statement of receipts and disbursements on page 2 of the financial statements is broken into 3 sections. At the top are the receipts of the association, which totaled almost $40,000, of which the predominance is from government grants. You also were able to generate almost $7,000 from the activities of selling the bike tickets on the bike and the regatta and things of that nature. The disbursements during the year were $43,000, and included in that are purchases of capital assets. Most of those was the renovations to the new premises in the old post office building. And that may not be a recurring cost. But the net result during the year is that there was a deficiency of $3,600. Started off at the beginning of the year with $25,000 on hand and closed the year with 21. And we show at the bottom of the statement how that 21,000 is made up. I'll turn just for a moment to the insurance claim receivable, because it is an item that the association is having a negotiation still with the insurance agent to see if they can resolve. I don't think that's a firm amount at this stage.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it's conceivable that there may be a bonus to the association should the insurance companies see their way to increase the claim. The final page sets out the notes to the financial statement, which tells the reader or gives the reader a little additional information. And I think in particular, the last notice is kind of important because where you had the fire last year, looking at the receipts and disbursements, there's a tremendous difference between this year's numbers and last year's. And we've got to remember that last year was purely a part year and did not focus on the full year's activities. It only focused on those activities since the date of the fire because the records prior to that time were lost. I think that's good. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. I appreciate the work you've done and the obviously very pleasant association you have with Juanita Koch. I understand that you have agreed to stand again as our auditor next year, and I would like a motion to reappoint Mr. Cook, please. Thank you, Paul. Seconded. I'm sorry, I can't see who you are.
Marjorie Crowther.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. I can't hear what you're saying.
Marjorie.
I'm sorry, Marjorie Crowther. Sorry, Mrs. Crowther, I just can't see you well enough from here to see who you are. Can I have a show of hands, please? An agreement? Sure. Mr. Cook, thank you very much. You're reappointed. I appreciate your work. I'd like to call on Mr. Maxwell Crane now with the report of the nominating committee. Now, this is slightly different from the previous one, is that this is the nominating committee for the CHHA Newfoundland. And in this, we have 4 or 5 member executive and an advisory board. And would you like to take over, Mr. Crane? Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. The nominees for the President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer of the organization of CHHA are as follows. President, Dr. Nora Brown has been nominated. Vice President, Paul Carter. Secretary, Glenn Tolanen. Treasurer, Frank Tilley. I will now ask if there's any other further nominations for these positions from the floor.
I would like to nominate Mr. Art Norris.
For what position, Mary? For the advice?
No particular position.
For the you're looking at the no particular position, looking at the advisory board, I assume. Okay. Do I have a seconder for Art Norris? Seconded by Judy Rogers. Okay. For the advisory board.
Because, well, this is you just spoken about the executive, which is different.
Okay. The Dr. Brown just informed me we will just take that nomination back shortly, and we will deal with the advisory board. Yes. Okay, that better? Okay, I'm sorry. We'll take the executive positions first of all, then we'll move, and I'll explain to you how the advisory board is going to work in just a moment, Mary. Is there any further nominations for the executive?
I move the nomination cease.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Who was the motion, or who made the motion to nomination cease?
Jack Norris.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Marjorie Crowther. Therefore, okay, I declare our new president, I'm sorry. There's no further, I will ask 3 times to the floor if there's any further nominations, and then the new executive will be declared our first CHHA Newfoundland chapter for Newfoundland and Labrador. Are there any other nominations? Once. Are there any other nominations? Twice. Any other nominations? 3 times. I declare Dr. Nora Brown, President,
Vice President Paul Carter, Secretary Glenn Cullinan, Treasurer Mr. Frank Tilley. In the bylaws of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association, there is no provision for an advisory board. We negotiated with Mr. Fred Clark, the chairperson on chapter, to avail of the opportunity to have an advisory board. And this was agreed by CHHA National that we would have an advisory board. These people have been selected, and Mary just added another name to that, and was Mr. Art Norris. And the seconder was Judy Rogers. Do I have any other nominations to that advisory board?
Yeah, I nominate Robert Rogers.
Robert Rogers?
Max, Robert is not here.
Robert Rogers is, okay, do I have a second?
Robert is not here, but has agreed to stand.
Okay, Robert is here, Dr. Brown. He's sitting beside Glenn.
Sorry, Robert. Somebody told me you had left, and I was awfully angry.
Do I have a seconder for Robert Rogers, please? Seconded by Paul Carter. Do I have any further nominations to the advisory board? Do I have any further nominations to the advisory board? Do I have any further nominations to the advisory board? 3 times.
Max, you haven't read it out yet, the advisory board.
Pardon me?
Did you read it out, or was I asleep? Did you read out the names, or was I asleep?
We're going too fast, Dr. Brown, for you. Okay. Okay. The advisory board, I'll read everybody who has consented now to serve on the advisory board. And they are Mrs. Lona Dunn, Mrs. Anne Griffin, Mr. Dan Heffernan, Mrs. Blanche Kelly, Mr. Glenn Learning, Miss Jeannie Leonard, Mrs. Joan Marshall, Mr. Robert Reed, Mrs. Judy Rogers, Mrs. Glenda Smith Fowler, Mr. Todd Tilley, Mr. Reg Hart, Mr. Robert Rogers, which was nominated this evening, and who was the other? Pardon me?
Art Norris.
Art Norris. We thank you for willing to serve. That concludes my duty for this evening, and I'll hand the microphone back to Dr. Noel Brown.
Very much. I think perhaps Robert Rogers should stand up and let me see his diminutive size, because I couldn't see him there. Thank you, Robert. Sorry about that. I was told you had left. Okay. I think that now, I don't know, where's Mr. Bowden got? Oh, okay. Do we have to sign the bylaws now?
If you have at least, sorry.
If you have at least 2 of the serving executive, I think you could, and I can countersign, and the remaining persons on that board could sign at a later date.
Right.
But I think you need, before you go ahead and sign, you need a motion to accept the bylaws.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the bylaws, please? Max Crane, seconded by Teresa Schapter.
I second it.
You're thirding it. Would you give a show of hands to see if you accept them? An awful not many hands go up. Do you mind? Fine, thank you. That's grand. So they are accepted. Thank you very much, and we'll sign them afterwards. Is that right, Mr. Bowden?
That's right.
Thank you. Mr. Bowden, I don't know if you would like to say a few more words. Would you like to say anything else? You've come a long, long way, and we've given you a grand show. At least I have of inefficiency. So maybe you'd like to withdraw everything. I don't know.
Well, first of all, I don't like to be one of those people that say, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, and then they stand here for an hour proving it. I know you're anxious to get home, but if you have any questions, I certainly would be pleased to answer anything I possibly can. As I said earlier on, we welcome you wholeheartedly to the family of CHHA. I think you've made the sensible move to join. There is, as I said earlier on, strength in numbers and commonality of purpose, and that we can certainly do together. We can certainly work together and get great ideas. As a matter of fact, I spent this morning in your new office, and I was looking around, as I usually do, my nosy self, and I saw a couple of things there that I'd like to take back to the national office and see if we can develop something from those things so that all people in the association, they are a couple of pamphlets that I'm sure that we can combine them to make a truly national information package to the public, which will be helpful. And you pick up ideas in this business as you go along. We're all amateurs at it. But you certainly, I would rather have an enthusiastic amateur than a bored professional any day. Getting back to CHHA, we will be having our annual general meeting in Calgary this year. And it's an election year. I've got to go back now and prepare for, I think, an executive meeting, a board meeting, an annual general meeting, and a New Horizons program meeting. So I'm going to be busy, but it's going to be fun. I've now retired, and I will be the past president for the next 2 years because I'm not running. I specifically ran for president of CHHA because the preceding years we had done a great deal in terms of growth, and a great deal of energy was put into advocacy issues, but we had acquired a professional staff that needed training properly. We had acquired a national office that needed to be put into the mode of running like a business and not like a sort of volunteer organization. And I think we've been able to do that. We've been able to introduce and cement and establish new policies and procedures, train the staff quite effectively, introduce computerized methods of management and membership recording, and also we had a big job of putting our multiple accounting system onto the computer. The gentleman sitting there can appreciate that every different grant we get, we have to have a different bank account for. So it gets to be quite a job. I'm happy to say that this year we were able to convince the federal government to increase our sustaining grant, which we get, to pay for our office management and staff. We were also able, just before I left, we were able to negotiate a New Horizons grant to continue funding the national magazine, Listen, Écoutez, which is I'm proud to say, is the only bilingual publication of its kind in the world. And I'm proud of that magazine. We've had a lot to do in getting it going. And we welcome any ideas in that or any articles that you might want to forward. We certainly like to run branch information, but we try to keep it as a magazine that anyone could read and learn from, rather than a communique type of thing for the association only. I guess our dream would be someday to be able to put it on the newsstand like Time magazine or something. But that's not foolish. There's a lot of sense to that if we can get the circulation up. It's a grand vehicle for public knowledge. We produce many, many more copies than that simply go to the membership. We send out copies to the medical profession, ear, nose and throat specialists, the audiologists, and many businesses and funding organizations. We try to circulate that as widely as we can to get as much public knowledge out there as we can. As I was saying, we were lucky to renegotiate a New Horizons grant, which is under the federal government seniors program. Don't ask me how we did that, but we did it, to get money to assist in the publication of that magazine. We also, another thing that we will be doing is to work toward getting a professional quality fundraising committee that can lay a 5-year plan and strategy for fundraising at the national level. This is something that hard of hearing people have great difficulty doing. I'm very enthusiastic about issues of the hard of hearing, but I've never been trained as a fundraiser. I mean, it's a very special skill. So we're changing from the home brand do-it-yourself fundraiser to raising a national committee of people that are dedicated to that discipline. They probably will be hearing people, but we want them for their expertise in fundraising. And we want to perpetuate that committee. And we've been given a grant to be able to do that, so that's a new initiative. The last thing I want to talk about is we have an application in to make hotels accessible across Canada. Now, some of you may not travel that much, but if you ever have an experience like I did in a hotel, it makes you start to think. I went to a hotel and I made a specific point to tell the desk clerk that I am hard of hearing. I said, when I sleep at night, I don't sleep with my hearing aid on, so I can't hear anything. That's all right, Mr. Bowden, we'll look after it. I said, would you mind writing it down somewhere? Oh, so we write it down. Next morning I wake up, shower, get my clothes on, comb my hair. Don't laugh. Then I pop my hearing aid and throw the switch, and there's bells all around. My God, what's going on? I look out the window, there's all the people standing in the parking lot. Lucky for me, it was a false alarm. So I had to go outside to find that. Came back in the room, and when I checked out, I said to the clerk, oh, you're new on the desk. Did you get an instruction about room, I think it was 214 or something? No, I never got anything. That convinced me that, they're just not doing their job. They just don't have procedures in place. They might have a fire alarm bell, but if you are hard of hearing, like many of us, you don't sleep with your hearing aid. You are vulnerable. So we have approached the funding agencies of government to get a grant, and they insisted that we work in a partnership. So I've been very successful in forging a partnership with the National Hotel Association of Canada to work together to a common purpose. They have a vested interest in making hotels accessible to attract more customers, a marketing thing for them. For us, it's an accessibility thing and a safety issue. So hopefully when I get back, I get some good news that we've been granted that money to go ahead with that program. But that's the type of thing that we're doing at the national level. Some of you may not know it, but the fact that you can use your T-switch in a noisy environment on a telephone, you can thank the Canadian Hard of Hearing for that. Because the way technology was going with offshore products coming into Canada and microchip circuitry being introduced to the telephone industry, all of the telephones would have eventually been non-accessible to you. But we insisted the manufacturers be made to put flux coils in telephones and continue to do that. And as recent as last year, we went through the same cycle with 4 telephone manufacturers who are producing a closed net cellular phone system. And they were going along merrily, forging their way without any consideration of people that wear hearing aids, until we met with them and say, hey, whoa, hold the fort. We were able to prove to them that there was electrical and mechanical interference with hearing aids from their base stations and also from their handsets. So we've got a commitment from them to correct these issues. We also have a commitment for them to put amplifiers on the phones, these cellular phones. And we also have a commitment that they will put flux coils. They want to get this in the market as fast as they can, because Europe and other countries in the world are ahead of us in that technology. But they've made us these commitments, and they've put dates by them. So these are the things that the National do. We are forever watching technology and the advancement of technology to make sure that it does not interfere with our rights the way we know them today, and that they will be genuine benefits to us as people. In that note, like I said, I don't want to spend all night talking. I thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be in Newfoundland again. I've been here twice before. But thanks to Dr. Nora Brown and her stepson, and Maxwell Crane, I was able to get outside the city and get up the coast a little, as far as, I get this word wrong, is it Brickus? That's right, Brickus, and Collier and places like that, and see a part of the rural side of Newfoundland and not just the city of St. John's. Thank you very much. Dr. Brown, all yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowden. So put us in touch. And now we are CHHA, Newfoundland. Do you feel any different? That really brings things to an end. Just one or two things I want to talk about shopkeeping. We're having a spring sale bazaar at St. Paul's Church Hall on Saturday week. And it's, what is it?
May 14th.
May the 14th, sorry. It'll be from 10 to 3, and any contributions like books, plants, indoor or outdoor.